What's up, everybody? It's your boy RP3 Rob, and I'm back from CES 2020. And let me say, it was a very enjoyable experience seeing all the things that's new that's coming out in 2020 and the concepts and about things where seeds have been planted for future tech, as in auto, phone, TV, you name it. If it ain't coming out this year, it'll be coming out pretty soon. But the one segment that seemed to make a little bit more headway with me was the mid-tier to budget range phones. CES is their time to shine, and they took advantage, and it worked to a lot of these companies' advantage because they didn't have too many big companies showing up their flagships and everything. So you had a chance to see a whole lot of great mid-range and budget phones. And so that's what this video is about. So let's get to talking. So first up, New Mobile. Now, New Mobile I will consider to be a budget phone company. Not too many mid-range phones if you're pretty much measuring it by the specs, but they do have a great selection of phones. Now, first up, there's the X6 that will be coming in at $100. Now that one will have a teardrop notch, 5.7-inch HD display, 720. It does have a 19:9 aspect ratio, and it does have a glossy finish on the back. Now there will be 13 megapixel dual cameras with autofocus and a fingerprint sensor on the back. Now on the front there's a 5 megapixel camera, and on the bottom is the charging ports, speakers, microphones, and you can find a headphone jack on top. Now the X6 will come with a 32 gigabytes of storage, which is expandable, 3 gigs of RAM. It does come with Android 9, a 2800 milliamp battery, the MediaTek 2.0 gigahertz, and this will be a GSM phone. So with that in mind, again, like I said, the New Mobile, that X6 one will pretty much be along the lines of what I would say just the budget in. Now, first off, at the New Mobile, we did see 2 other phones which hasn't been given a final name. They pretty much had them labeled as V1 and V2. So let's start with the V1. Now that one phone will come with a 5.5-inch HD IPS display at 1560 by 720. It will have an 8 megapixel rear camera and a 5 megapixel front camera. It will be rocking the MediaTek 1.8 quad core. It will have 2 gigs of RAM, and it will start off at 16 gigabytes of storage, which is expandable, and come with Android 10. And it will have a bigger battery at 3120 milliamp. And this one will work on GSM and some CDMA companies. They will have some of the bands. But with that in mind, I didn't get a price point, and by the sound of that, we're probably looking at somewhere maybe under $200, but don't quote me on that. We just pretty much had to wait for this phone to show up on their website. Now, like I said, they had another phone which was labeled V2, and again, this is not the final name, but that had a little bit more better specs on that one. It was a little bit bigger. Now the V2 came with 6.1-inch HD IPS display, 1560 by 720. Did have 13 megapixel rear camera, 5 megapixel front facing camera. It has the MediaTek 1.8 quad core. It did have 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigabytes of storage, and is expandable. It does come with Android 10. It does have a 3120 milliamp battery, and this phone is GSM, CDMA, and LTE bands on board. So again, like I said, we didn't get a lot of information or any actual nailed down release dates of when those 2 V phones will be coming out, but we was kind of looking forward to that one because those sound a little bit more enticing than the X6. One interesting phone we did see was a foldable phone, kind of old school. It was called the F4L, and that was kind of interesting. It was like a throwback phone to me. It did have a 2.8 QVGA primary screen, which was set at 240 to 320. The secondary screen was on the back of the phone, which was at like a 120 megapixels. It does have a 2 megapixel rear camera, and the front facing camera is under 0.3 megapixel. So it's not even worth really mentioning that. I don't know what kind of pictures you think you can get with that. It does come with a MediaTek 1.1 quad core on board. It does have 512 megapixel of RAM. It does come with Android 8.0 and 1,350 milliamp battery. And it is a CDMA compatible phone, no GSM. And it does have about 5 LTE bands that come with the F4L. You get the 2, 4, 5, 12, 13, and 66 LTE bands. So, I mean, as the low end of the low end, I'm quite sure this phone will be well under $100. But we haven't gotten any final price of the new mobile lineup. But they seem like they have right to ship and they're ready to move forward in 2020. Also, another budget company that I want to highlight is Alcatel. Now, Alcatel had a very big presence there, and they had quite a few phones, but I decided to highlight 2 phones that caught my eye, one at the mid-range and one on the budget end. Now, Alcatel is really doing big things. They're trying to pretty much change their perception about their company, and they had a pretty nice display with some great looking phones. Now, first up, there was the 3V. Now, Alcatel's 3 series, you know, they have the 3L, the 3X, the 3C, and the 3. But the 3V is the one that had my attention. Now, this phone had a 6.7-inch HD plus display, stereo speakers, a dual rear camera with bokeh, 8 megapixel selfie camera with, and also on the back camera there is the AI scene detection, which is on board. Now, this phone is powered by a MediaTek Core XA 2.0 gigahertz processor, 3 gigs of RAM, and it has a very large 4,000 milliamp battery. Also, the 3V does have facial and fingerprint recognition on board. Now, with that in mind, that phone has some pretty nice specs and should be a nice pickup for anybody. But as of the filming this video, pricing and a lot of that information wasn't available to us at the time of the recording, but I'm quite sure this phone shouldn't cost anywhere over $300 if I was to make an educated guess. If you decide to go on Alcatel's website, you can look at their 2019 phones, and that can pretty much give you an idea of what some of the pricing may be with this new 3V coming out, Alcatel 3V. Now, another phone that was real cool that caught my attention was a low end called the Alcatel Onyx. Now, that phone was pretty cool. I like that one. It did come with a 5.5-inch display. It did have a 3,000 milliamp battery, which shows a lot of promise in that budget range. So like I said, I didn't have a lot of hands-on time with it. Believe it or not, Alcatel had one of the more crowded areas where people were there and were really getting into all their phones. They had quite a few things on display, tablets and other items. So Alcatel is probably ready to try to make a big splash in 2020. Whether they're successful or not, that's pretty much up to how they decide to market their phone. Also, TCL is trying to make waves in the mid-range market. They got a beast of a selection coming up, so you gotta be on the lookout for TCL. In my opinion, I think they're going to be the sleeper company of 2020. And if enough of these phones get into the tech community, and if TCL market these phones and these phones even have a little bit of success, I can see TCL actually trying to nudge some of these other companies out of the way as being in the forefront of some of your decision-making process when it comes to picking out phones. You won't just be thinking about OnePlus anymore. You won't be just thinking about Vivo or any of these other companies that might jump up front, ZTE, you're really going to have to take in the fact that TCL is a company that you're going to have to add into your decision-making process. Now, the phone I checked out was the TCL Plex. Now, the TCL Plex, now this mid-range phone comes in at 6.5 inch, full HD plus, what they call Dot display. Now, this dedicated display engine that kicks up the HDR viewing with visual enhancement called NXT Vision technology. Now, the cameras on board are a 48 megapixel high-res AI camera. It also has a 2.9 low light camera with a 960 frames per second slow-mo also. It does have a wide angle lens that shoots at a 123 degree super wide angle. Now, the phone also connects and navigates fluidly up to 4 devices with super Bluetooth, and can be used as a remote to control any TCL TV with their clean and visually engaging UI called TCL UI. Now, the phone will come with a Snapdragon 675. It will have 6 gigabytes of RAM, and it will have a base of 128 gigabytes of internal storage, with it being able to be expanded. It also will have a 3,650 milliamp battery, making this phone something to be reckoned with. And these phones are very nice looking, high quality feeling phones, and they didn't really cheap out, and they really came to try to make a statement in the smartphone market. So you're really going to have to give TCL a little bit of attention in 2020. So that pretty much does it with my mid-range and budget walk around at CES 2020. There were some more companies there, but I just pretty much picked out the ones that stood out to me. I could have really went on a long time about this, but I didn't really want to make this a 20-minute video. So again, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and also leave your questions and comments down below. Other than that, I'll catch you in the next video. I'm out.